The shir is dedicated by Chaim and Nechama Mazo in honor of Connie and Sheldon Abramson's 60th anniversary. Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov. There's 60 more to come. Ad Mea V'Esrim. Thank you for sponsoring the shir. The shir is Le'ela Nishmat Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach. Le'ela Nishmas Avraham ben Mordechai David. Le'ela Nishmas Ruvain ben Shmuel. Le'ela Nishmas Chana Golda bas Yisrael. Le'ela Nishmas Chaim ben Fege. Le'ela Nishmas Yeshua ben Shmuel. And Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka. Osher Shmuel Chaim ben Tzion v'Ephraim. And my dear parents, Le'ela Nishmatam. Today's topic is, can gerus be revoked? If a ger does not keep any mitzvot, is he Jewish or not Jewish? What's his status? And it's very relevant today because there are gerim today that don't keep mitzvot. What is their status? Are they Jews or are they non-Jews? And what's better off for them? So if you take a look at the side where it says one tosfot, it's one paper with two sides. I hope you all have a copy. It says one tosfot. Got that? One tosfot? Okay. One tosfot. Tosfot in Tractate Yevamot says that the ger tzorech shlosha. In order to convert, there has to be a bezdin of three. Okay? Now, if you look at source number 2, the Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea, Kol inyone hager, all the matters of a convert in source number 2, bein lu'edia mitzvos l'kablan, bein amila, bein atfila, tzorach shiyeh begimel, hakshem lodon. In order to bear to be accepted, is teaching about the mitzvot, the mila and the tefillah has to be done in front of 3 ksherim, 3 knowledgeable rabbis that know the laws of gerut, ubayom. And you can only do the tefillah and the milah bayom. The immersion and the brit milah of a ger can only be done by, only done by what? By day, okay? By day. Now let's go to source number 3. The Rambam, where do you learn out all the laws of gerut? Where do you learn it out from Chava? Source number 3 in the Rambam, you have it? B'shlosha devarim nechnos sol brit. The Jewish people did not become Jewish until Har Sinai. We forget that. Ruvain, how could Amram marry his aunt Yocheved? Moshe's parent, Amram, married his doda. In Jewish law, that's considered incest. How could Amram, Moshe's father, marry his mother, whose mother was an aunt? No Torah. Surprising that Moshe's parents and Moshe himself were not Jewish. They had a din like Noachites. There was no such thing as Judaism until Kabbalah Torah. The Rambam in source number 3 tells us, B'shlosha devarim echnos sol bris. How did the Jewish people become Jewish? B'milah, circumcision, tefillah, immersion, the karban. And they brought a karban olah. Today a ger can't bring a karban because there's no Beit HaMikdash. But in the days of the temple, and we learned this from the Sinai revelation, the Jewish people became Jewish through 3 steps: circumcision, immersion, and karban. And all gerim follow that procedure. What about Kabbalah Mitzvot? What about Kabbalah? Women don't need Brit Milah, right? So they go through Tefillah, the Karban. Today there is no Karban. But what about Kabbalah Mitzvot? Isn't something missing? Circumcision, immersion, and the Karban. What about accepting the mitzvot? So if you look at Halacha Dalet, source number 3, Halacha Dalet, V'chein ledorot, says the Rambam. And throughout all the generations, source number 3, Dalet, Kesheyitza hagoy likones lebrit. If a non-Jew wants to join the covenant of Am Yisrael, tachas kanfei Ashchina, yikabel all Torah. So here the Rambam mentions Kabbalah Mitzvos. In the paragraph before, he mentions immersion, circumcision and korban. Here he mentions there's a fourth step, Kabbalat Ol Torah, because for the guf, a human being is made up of guf and neshama, right? The guf needs what? Circumcision immersed in a korban. But the neshama, human being is made of a body and soul, the neshama also has to accept all Torah. He has to make a verbal commitment to accept what? All the mitzvot. So tzorech kabod all Torah, tzorech mila v'tfila, and a korban. Vim nekeva, source number 3, if she's a woman, of course she doesn't need brit milah, she goes through immersion and korban. Shenema kachem kager, ma'atam b'mila tfila, afager. Just like the Jewish people became Jewish. They were Hebrews. They didn't become Jewish until Mamad Har Sinai, where they underwent circumcision, was where? In Egypt. And if you look in by Pashas Yisrael, they went to the mikvah. There was a stream flowing near Har Sinai. And they went to the mikvah, and they also brought a korban, afager ledorot. So too, throughout the generations, any non-Jew that wants to join the Jewish people goes through milah, tefillah, v'korban. Okay? So those are the 3 steps, plus Kabbalat Ol HaMitzvot. Now, the Rambam goes on, Halacha Yudalid. This is the Rambam, source number 3, Halacha Yudalid. Al yal al datcha, sheshimshon HaMashiach Yisrael, O Shlomo Melech Yisrael, shenikra Yidid Hashem, don't think that Samson, or Shlomo HaMelech, who's called God's lover, nosim nachroniot. If you read the Bible, it seems that Shimshon and Shlomo, the wiser of all men, married what? Non-Jewish women. Don't think like that. No. Elasoid hadover kachu. The secret is shamitzvah nechona. Keshiyover ager, a gioris agaya, when a potential convert comes to join us, botkin acharav, we have to what? Investigate what are his motives. Shema biglal momoin sheyitol obeshvil sarara. Is there ulterior motives why he wants to become a Jew? Is it in it for the money? Is it romance? Does he want a position? Or im nehapachat, he's afraid. That's why he wants to join the Jewish religion. V'im ishu, and if it's a man, boitken acharav shema einov nosam bisha Yehudis. If he's a non-Jew, we have to investigate. Perhaps he wants to become Jewish. He has his eye what? On a Jewish woman. V'im ishahi, and if it's a non-Jewish woman, Botkin Shema Eineha Nata B'Bachur Yisrael. Maybe she has her eye what? On a Jewish boy. Im lo nimtza lahem. So we investigate. If you don't find any ulterior motives, Modi'an Oisai Kavod Al HaTorah, we let him know the yoke of the Torah. It's not easy to be a Jew, and we let him know. And what? And we accept him. And we accept him. Okay?
Rabbi?
Yes?
That's related to the idea of push away with one hand and bring in with the other.
You have to push him away 3 times, and then, if he checks out, you're supposed to accept him. But what about Shlomo HaMelech's wives? Did they undergo conversion? He says yes. Look at Halacha Tezvav. Lefikach lo kiblu bezdin ger mekoy medei Shlomo. Therefore, converts were not accepted in the days of Shlomo and David. Why not? Bimei David, sheva min hapachat. Because the Jewish people were the superpower in the Middle East, and they were afraid. Maybe that's why the Gerim are coming. Ubimei Shlomo, shema b'shvil hamalchut v'hatova gdola. Everybody wants to join a winning team. In the days of Shlomo HaMelech, the Jews were the superpower, everyone underneath his fig tree and vine tree. So, officially, Bezdin did not accept any converts in the days of what? David and Shlomo, because they suspected that they were in it, what? For ulterior motives. Anyone that converts because of what? Ulterior motives, Eino Miger Tzedek. He's not called a righteous convert. So that begs the question, how did Shlomo HaMelech convert all of these what? Foreign women. Afa Pikain, Hoyegerim Harbe Mitgairim B'mei David Shlomo, b'mnei hadyotot, even though officially Bezdin did not accept, the chief rabbinate did not accept converts in the days of David and Shlomo because they suspected they were not sincere. It was ulterior motive, join a winning team, join the Rambo of the Middle East. So the chief rabbinate did not accept them, but there was hediotos, incredible. There was private bezdins who did accept Gerim in the days of Shlomo. And that's how Shlomo HaMelech's wives, they went through the back door. Chief rabbinate would not accept them because they suspected they're doing it, they want to marry the king. Chava, it's good to be the king of the Middle East, Solomon, right? Afa Pikain, there were private bezdins that did accept Shlomo's wives. V'hoye bezdin godol choshesh shalhem. And the bezdin hagodol, the supreme bezdin, suspected them. Loi doichen oisam, they didn't push them away, and they didn't what? Accept them. They observed them to see if in fact the conversion was authentic or was it a sham. Halacha Tez, this is all the Rambam. Look at Halacha Tez Zayin.
Only a few private business today?
So that's the thing, private business today. Nothing has changed in 3,000 years. The chief rabbinate doesn't want to accept, and they are private business, just like they were in the days of what? Shlomo HaMelech. Halacha Tez Zayin. Lefi Shegir Shlomo Noshim and Nosad. Since Shlomo HaMelech converted all of these women, and then he married them, V'chein Shimshon Giev and Nosa. Shimshon also, my, Delilah. Why, Delilah? I'm not going to give up my day job, don't worry.
To become a husband.
Delilah was a convert. I'll do it on which side, the right or the left? Delilah was a convert. The Rambam says, V'chein Shimshon. Shimshon converted Delilah through one of these private bezdins. V'hadova yedua shlechazu elo b'shvil davar. And everybody knew that why is Delilah converting? She wants to marry the chief judge of Israel. And all of these women, why are they converting? They want to be the wife of Shlomo HaMelech. So they all knew it was not authentic. He didn't convert them through the official bezdin. Therefore, Scripture considers them what? Non-Jews, even though they went through conversion. But everybody knew it was a sham. So therefore, the Tanakh says that Shlomo's wives were what? Goyim, even though they went through a process.
Excuse me, Rabbi?
Yes?
What if somebody wants to marry a Jew, and the person is not Jewish, but they want to marry a Jew?
Right.
And so is that bad? I mean,
Well,
that's an ulterior.
That's an ulterior. It has to be for the sake of God. It has to be l'shem shemayim. It can't be for an ulterior motive, like romance or money. Then it's not considered a good gerus.
Get married.
Okay.
So
So let them marry someone of their own religion, right?
yes, really.
Right. So let's see what the sources have to say. So
Conflict of interest.
a ger tzedek has to be a sincere convert. He wants to convert to Judaism because he knows that's the truth, and he doesn't have to because keep the 7, go to heaven. But he wants more kedusha. He wants more spirituality. If there's an ulterior motive like romance or money, then it's not considered a valid gerus. Therefore, the Tanakh calls Shlomo's wives and Samson's wives goyim, even though they went through conversion, because everyone knew they're only converting because they want to be the first lady of the land.
Is that why
Yeah,
it
they
says
have a
Ger
conflict of
Zedek all the
interest.
time?
What?
When you're saying Shemona Esrei, it says Ger Zedek.
Ger tzedek, as opposed to the phony converts. Okay? Ger tzedek, right?
Close to the Erev Rav. That's the.
Right, that's right. So we see that Shlomo's wives built the bamot, the high places for Avodah Zarah, and therefore Tanakh calls them what? Goyim, even though Yehuda, they went through the process. Okay? Now look at Halacha Yud Zayin.
What happened to their children? Are they going?
Well,
Yeah, if they're women.
if right, the child follows the mother, right? A tragedy, right? That's how we know the Torah is true. Esther, tell it like it is. Shlomo HaMelech, who built the Beit HaMikdash, he's called the Yedid Hashem, the beloved of God. He made mistakes, and the Tanakh does not cover up. Judaism is true blue. Tell it like it is with all the ugly details. Now look at Halacha Yud Zayin. You have it, Rabbi Yaakov, Halacha Yud Zayin? Kedai to look in. Ger shaloi botko achrav. A convert came, and the Bezdin did not do a thorough background check. You hear this? Halacha Yud Zayin. Right? They didn't do a background check, and they didn't let him know all the mitzvot and the punishment. Umal v'toval b'fnei gimel hadyotot harei ze ger. Yiddish Ruvain. They didn't do a background check. He came, and they didn't even let him know the mitzvot. If he went through circumcision and tefillah in front of 3 rabbis, harei ze ger. Incredible. He is considered what? Afilu noda. Chava, look inside. Afilu noda. Shebishvil dover hu mitgayer. Even if it became known that he converted, after the fact it became known, why did he convert? A pretty face, a good job offer. Can the gerus be annulled? Once he's circumcised and he immersed, yotzal miklal goyim, he is no longer considered what? A goy? V'choshesh loy atzei yizboya tzikosoi afilu chozav oet kachavim. Even though this ger, he converted. We didn't do a background check. He converted. And later on we find out there was an ulterior motive, Chava. Even though he relapsed into idolatry. Harehu, what's the next word? Yehuda. Harehu, it's underlined. Ki Yisrael mumar. He has a din like a Jew that's a mumar. Mumar means an apostate, but he has a din like a Jew. Shekidushin kedushin. He marries a Jewish woman. The kedushin is chal. Even though, Chavo, we found out that he had ulterior motives after the fact, and even though he relapsed into idolatry, he still has a din like what? A Jewish mumar. A sinful Jew, and his kiddushin is kiddushin. U'mitzvah lahachzi avaydosai, and it's a mitzvah to return his lost object. Why? Ma'achash hataval, since he's circumcised and he what? Immersed. Naseh, what's the next word? Naseh ki Yisrael.
It's not underlined in these.
No, Naseh ki Yisrael, he has a din like what? A Jew. Lefika, therefore. It's not underlined by you, Lefikach, no? Lefikach, Kaimo, Shimshon, V'shlomo, is saying, therefore, Shimshon and Shlomo kept their wives. My wife, I'll keep her. Afa Pi Shenigla Sodan, even though the secret came out that they were what? Phony converts. There, Shlomo and Shimshon did not what? Divorce them. So the Rambam seems to contradict. He says they have a din like Goyim, and then he says what? Rivka, Jews. So what's going on over here? I'm mixed up. So Halacha Tezayin is speaking likatchila. Halacha Yudzayin is speaking b'di eved. What does b'di eved mean, Ruvain? After the fact, they're stuck. They have a din like Yidden, even though we find out later they were not sincere. They have a din like Yidden. Tanakh calls them Goyim because they acted like Goyim. But halachically, Tirza, they had a din like Yid that sinned. And therefore, Shimshon and Shlomo, amazingly, were permitted to what? My wife, I think I'll keep her. Huh?
Well, Samson should get rid of the lamb.
What? It's pretty amazing. Likatchila. And b'di'eved, Judaism is such a kind, compassionate religion. After the fact, he's a Jew, and therefore Shimshon and Shlomo halachically were permitted to keep their wives, even though the secret came out. Pretty amazing.
It's misplaced chesed.
We're not finished yet, Malka. Look at Yud Ches. See Yud Ches, Malka? And therefore the rabbis say, Kosher lehem gerim liyisrael kenegat tzarat. Therefore, the Talmud says that some gerim are difficult for the Jewish people, like the plague of leprosy. Why is that? Sheruban choizvin b'shvil davar umatin. So many of them relapse and they cause their Jews to sin. V'kosha davar lifrosh mehem achash nizgairu. Some gerim relapse, so therefore it's like a plague for the Jewish people. Not all gerim, but some gerim. All right.
Some are better Jews than we are.
So very good. Yehuda Lev is a Talmud Chacham, and he mentioned that two ways to learn this Gemara. The Gemara says in Ksubos, gerim are difficult for the Jewish people like the plague of leprosy. So the Rambam says because they relapse and cause Jews to sin. But the Bala Tosfot, Ruvain, Rabbeinu Avram ben Avram, one of the Bala Tosfot, on that Gemara, he used to be a monk in the Middle Ages, and he converted, and he became one of the great Bala Tosfot. He says, you know why gerim are difficult for the Yidden like the plague of leprosy? You know why? Because we show up a born Jew.
That's right.
We show them up. We're more excited. We're more enthusiastic about our Judaism. So we are difficult for born Jews because we show them up. They take their Judaism, what's the word, lethargically? For granted. So therefore we're difficult. Rabbeinu Avram ben Avram, one of the Bala Tosfot, Yiddish, a monk who became a Ger Tzedek, became one of Rashi's disciples. And he says, no, we're difficult because we make born Jews look bad. Right. Where is the excitement and enthusiasm that a Ger has?
Wait till they have kids and see
you hear? So that's why they're difficult for Jews. Baruch Hashem, I had the schus to make many Gerim, and I envy their enthusiasm. That's a good type of envy. They're excited about their Judaism. They're thrilled by it, and I envy that. I'm so excited. Yes? What?
There's another reason why Geras could be very problematic,
Yes?
and this is Maisa Shahaya. This actually
Right, but tell me the story later because I have a lot of sources to go through, okay? Just let me go through the sources over here. Source number 4. Source number 4, the Rambam says, Keitzad megablim geret tzedek. How do you accept a righteous convert? Kishiyove echad l'sgaya ben agoyim. One comes from the non-Jews to convert. The yibotku achrav. We investigate. We don't find any ulterior motives. Amrim lo. We say to him, Ma ra'ita shabbat le'gayer. What do you want to convert to Judaism for? Are you crazy? Iyat yodeya she'Yisrael b'zman hazeh. Or we have the BDS, and we have the EU, and Abu Mamzer, and John Balkari, and the Abomination,
and the New York Times,
and Tom Friedman. What do you want to become? Right? Pete Beinart. We have so many enemies. The Fifth Column too. Why do you want to join us? Huh? If he says, I need your daya, I know that the Jews are so persecuted and hated, they could die. And I'm not worthy to join them, but I want to. Miyad. If he says, I know the Jews are hated and persecuted and discriminated against, and I'm not worthy to join such a noble people, if he says that, Mikalban also miyad. We accept him what? Immediately. Wow. Immediately we accept him. What? Pretty amazing, right? Now what's the most repeated mitzvah in the Torah? The haftem et hager. Buy one, get 36. Jews love bargains. It's called a vilda mitzvah. If you love a ger, you get 36 mitzvot. More than any other mitzvah in the Torah, says Rambam, it's repeated 36 times to love a ger, not to discriminate against a ger. So if you take a ger to lunch, you get buy one, get 36. Lillian. A vilda mitzvah. That's pretty amazing, right? A kosher lunch, right? And therefore, Moshe tells Yisro, Moshe tells Yisro, you will be to us like our eyes. What does Moshe Rabbeinu need a Midianite tour guide? You're a ger tzedek. We love you like we love the apple of our eyes. So by loving a ger, you get the granddaddy of all mitzvot, 36 mitzvot. Okay? Now let's turn over on side number 2. On side number 2, the Rambam again. Rambam Hilchos Asira Bia Halacha Aleph B'Shlosha Devarim Nechlas HaYisrael Lebrit. Remember, the Jewish people had din like Noachites. We forget that. Abraham, Moshe were not Jewish. They were Noachites. Otherwise, how could Moshe's father marry his mother, who was his aunt? Marrying an aunt in Jewish law is incest. So how could Moshe's father marry his aunt? What's the answer? Keep the 7, go to heaven. Moshe himself and the Jewish people were not Jews, they were Noachites. So in 3 stages the Jewish people converted: Brit, Mila, and Tefillah, and Karban. And through all the generations today, you can't do a Karban because we don't have what? Beis HaMikdash. Right? Now look at Halacha Yud Zayin. You have it, Yehuda? Halacha Yud Zayin?
Almost at the bottom of the...
Halacha Yud Zayin. Rambam. You have that? Ger Shalai Batku Achrav. Bezdin, the boo-boo. They slipped up. They didn't investigate. The computer was down that day. Halacha Yud Zayin. Ger Shalai Batku. Oshli do a mitzvahs. They didn't let him know the mitzvahs. You're supposed to tell him the mitzvahs. And the punishment, Umal. And he circumcised the Tovel of Nei Gibel had Yotot, Harei Zeger. And 3 rabbis converted him, even though they didn't do a background check. He is considered what? Ger. Afilo Noda, even though it's known, Shebishvil Dover Humid Gayer, after the fact we realize he converted because what? Ulterior motives. Hoyel Umal, the Toval, Yotze Meklal Akum. Once he underwent the procedure, he's no longer called a non-Jew. And when we investigate him, and even though he relapsed into Avodah Zarah, Harei Kishro Mumar. You hear, he has a din like a Jew, a sinful Jew. And once he became a Jew, there is no what? No going back. There's no such thing as annulling a Gerut Lemafreya. No such thing. Halachically, there is no such thing. The Rambam says clearly that there is no such thing. Once a Bezdin has converted a ger, even though they didn't do a background check, and even though the ger relapsed into idolatry, he is considered what? A Jew, but a sinful Jew. His gerus cannot be revoked. No halachic validity or precedent for retroactively revoking any gerut.
Even if he wants to.
No basis. He's stuck, right? He is stuck. And these rabbis that say that a ger can be annulled, they are causing needless anguish to gerim. They're committing 36 averot, causing needless. Those who say that gerut can be annulled retroactively are causing needless pain and anguish to Yidden, and they are transgressing 36 averot. But some people say, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is already made up. Some people just don't get it. Now, take a look at the Igros Moshe, yes?
I just want this hedyot.
Hedyot means 3. No, Hedyot means 3 learned Jews. Hedyot means they're not even officially rabbis. They're 3 learned Jews and they know the laws of Gerut. That's what Hedyot means. It's a tremendous leniency, Rivka. 3 learned Jews that know the laws of Gerut are b'di'evet considered a valid bezdin to convert a convert. And that conversion cannot ever be what? Revoked.
What if a person comes in as a missionary and he
No.
does it subterranean?
No, we'll talk. But friend, look at,
I know someone like that.
okay. Look at Shalos V'Tshuvas Igros Moshe Yeredeya, and then we'll talk. You see that? Shalos V'Tshuvas Igros Moshe Yeredeya. You have it, Yehuda, or not? Shalos V'Tshuvas Igros Moshe Yeredeya. This is a great Moshe Feinstein talking. Chavi, you have the place? V'lechein, he says. You have it? V'lechein?
First paragraph of the second piece.
Yesh lefakpeik. ala gerut, we can have sveikot, ala gerut, sheyesh rabbanim mekablin. We can have, uncertain rabbis accept gerim, and we have doubts. Hu'anan sahadi, we can testify, beruban, that most of these converts, einon mekablot ha-mitzvot. We know that they're really not accepting the mitzvot. The gam shaloitei adifa mi bala Yahudi shezgar b'shviloi. A non-Jewish woman is coming to convert. Her boyfriend is Jewish. Her boyfriend doesn't keep anything. You expect her to be more religious than her Jewish boyfriend. Sometimes it happens like that, right?
And the boy wishes he hadn't married.
Right, she becomes a Rebbitzin.
Yeah.
She becomes a Rebbitzin.
With a whip in her hand.
Right? The gam shaloiti adifa. What'd you say? Why was Adam created before Chava? Why was the man created before a woman? Because God wanted the man to get a chance to say a word. Can't get a word in edgewise. So he created Adam before Chava. At least he gets a chance to say a word. Why was the chassan break the glass under the chuppah and not the kala? Oh, the last time he gets a chance to put his foot down, make it a good one. Anyway, where was I over here? Okay. So we know she's not going to be any better than her Jewish boyfriend. Shehi royesh, she sees, shegam hu. The first word on the line is mechalel Shabbat. You have it, Yehuda? Shegam hu mechalel Shabbat. She sees that her Jewish boyfriend desecrates the Shabbos, umufka laharbe, and he doesn't keep the mitzvot, he eats non-kosher. So she converts. So we know that she's not going to do the mitzvahs, because she's not going to be more frum than her Jewish boyfriend. Look at the punchline. Ach, al kol zeh, yesh mokaim lomer, shehu geirut b'di'evet. B'di'evet, it's considered a valid geirut. That's a tremendous leniency. Why? Ma'acha she'amra, because what did she say? Lifnei bezdin shemekabloi mitzvot HaTorah. Because she said the right words. She said that she accepts the mitzvot of the Torah. The iro gam kizush makel be'emet. In her mind, she means it. L'chein ulai danin af be'elu she'ein shomeres achakach din HaTorah. Even afterwards, they don't keep the Torah. She'bore lanu. You have it, Ruvain? It's clear to us, she'af b'shat hagerut, like kibla beliba, in her heart she didn't mean to keep the mitzvot. Rak kedvarim shebelev. But as long as she said the right words, we hold devarim shebelev lo yhava devarim. In Judaism, it's what you say that counts, not what you think. Judaism is what you say and what you do, not what you think. Af sheladi loy mistabe b'shvil eze yichidos l'salek anan sahadi av ulai zehu yesh al kaponim. So Ramosha Feinstein says b'di'evet, even such a ger has a din what? A tremendous leniency, Reuven. You're not finished yet. Va'od. See the second paragraph, Yehuda, va'od? Yesh mokaim loimer tam godol. I'll give you another great reason why even this conversion, Chava, is considered what? Good. Who's speaking here? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, the greatest rabbi of the 20th century, who died in 1986. Va'od. See the last paragraph? Va'od yesh mokom lomer tam godol. I'll give you another great reason why the gerus is what? Valid. The Mashabala, speaking about a case for this non-Jewish woman, her husband is a Jew. She only converted because of him. Hu mechalo Shabbat. She sees that what? He breaks Shabbos, mufkar bekama isurin, and he eats non-kosher. Shehi svula, what does she think? She'ein chiyav kol kach lishmar mitzvot. She thinks that it's not necessary to keep mitzvot, because she sees her boyfriend and all of his friends who are Jewish don't keep the mitzvot. So in her mind, it's not important to keep mitzvot, she thinks. Im kain, hu keger shenitgayer ben agoyim. Shemeforish b'Shabbat daf samach shehav a ger. Afal pikein Ruvain, that's considered what? A valid gerus. Af she'adayin oved avodah zarah. Even if he what? Worships avodah zarah, once he went through the process, he burned his bridges. He's now considered what? A Jew, and there is no going back. V'hatam mishim shebekabel olav lios kechol haYehudim shenechshav kibla. He wants to be like all the Jews. And what Jews does he see? Jews that are not religious. Af shelo yoda klum me'amitzvot. Even though she doesn't know anything of the mitzvot, listen to this, Ruvain. What's the next word? The yediat ha-mitzvot eino makevet ha-geirut. You have that? The yediat ha-mitzvot, even though the ger doesn't know about the mitzvot, he went through the procedure, does not prevent a valid gerus. Are you reading this?
Yeah.
Rabbi Moshe Feinstein is speaking here. Isn't that incredible, Malka?
It freaks me out.
You're not looking in.
I can't.
But you have to look in.
But it's the word.
1 minute.
The fact that human.
Otherwise you'll think I'm off the wall. Yediat ha-mitzvot eino makevet ha-gerut. Knowledge of mitzvot does not prevent a proper gerut. Varak, biyoda. Listen to this. What does prevent proper gerus? What's the first word, Yehuda? Varak biyoda. V'lo rotze lekabel. What does prevent gerut? He knows, and he says, I don't want to accept the mitzvot. Huika begerut. If he says verbally, I don't want to accept even one mitzvah, if he says it, he's out. What he thinks doesn't matter. It's what he says that counts. 1 minute. We'll finish. The rak mitzvahs mediyam, we let her know some of the mitzvot. V'lechein. See the punchline? It says v'lechein. Af shabezdin. Amrullah. Even when the Bezdin tells this non-Jewish woman who's converting because of a Jewish husband, shetzorech lishmar Shabbat, Bezdin tells her, listen, you have to keep the Shabbat, and she sees her husband doesn't. Choshevet, what does she think? Shehu rak hidur be'alma. Aaron, you following this? She thinks it's only what? A chumrah. Avol gam mi she'eno shomer Shabbat. She thinks someone that doesn't keep Shabbos, the Kedaima, Toya Loimar, in her mistaken mind, Shu Yehudi Kasher. She thinks that he's what? Kosher Jew. Nimtza. You have it, Yehuda? Nimtza? Comes out. Shalata'ata, according to her mistaken assumption, Kibla Kol HaMitzvot. Shehudi Mechayev, that a Jew has to keep. Even though it's a mistaken concept, Reb Ruven, what's the next word? Shehu gerut, it's considered what?
It's considered.
Af, even though shemachmat zeh loy tiskayem al kapodim mitzvot. Even though we know she's not going to keep mitzvot, she's not going to be more religious than her Jewish husband.
Sometimes they are.
That's considered a valid gerut. V'zehu tam sheyesh bo. What's the next word? Mamash. And this is the reason why their substance, that she is considered what? A giorit? V'hu lamet schus tzat al rabbonim ha-makablim. This is melamet schus on those rabbis that accept converts, knowing that they will not accept the mitzvot. Afal Pikain, says the great Moshe Feinstein, it's incredible. It's considered what? A valid gerut. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Can I ask one?
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, this, you got to keep these sheets because otherwise people will think that you're from Mars. This is the great Moshe Feinstein. The chief rabbis today, what are they talking about? Can they argue with the greatest rabbi of the 20th century, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha? And he writes this black on white, Rabbi Yaakov, this is black on white. What?
They did that.
He's the Gadol Hador. What?
They did that to Rabbi Druckman. He was
Yes.
a wonderful rabbi.
And that's what he's talking about. They
It doesn't work.
Rabbi,
Because the Rabbeinu Tam, at the end of a Sechta Gittin, says, no Bezdin has the authority to revoke or annul the psak of another Bezdin. Not even if it's a greater Bezdin who wants to revoke the psak of a lesser Bezdin. It can't be, says Rabbeinu Tam. Therefore, there is no halachic validity or precedent for retroactively revoking a ger. It doesn't exist. It causes needless anguish and pain to gerim.
Terrible.
And it's useless and worthless. It upsets them for nothing. Once you've been converted, says the Rambam and Moshe Feinstein, Moshe ben Maimon and Moshe Feinstein, both of them say, once the gerus has been done, even though we know now that it was not sincere, there is no turning back. That person has a din like a Jew who's a sinner. But 100% Jew, there is no precedent at all for what? Retroactively or canceling gerut.
Rabbi.
Now, yes, go ahead.
Buy all that, no problem with it.
Yeah.
My problem is one thing that you said, and I just want to make sure I clarify.
Go ahead.
You said, we don't worry about what we think, we worry about what we
In-
do.
in Judy-
That's fine,
What we say.
but what about mitzvah Sprecher?
1 minute, my dear friend Ruvain.
Yes.
Devarim shebelev loy hava devarim. In Judaism, it's what you say and what you do that counts, not what you think. We paskin mitzvahs ain't trichat kavana. Of course, likit chatchila, you should have kavana. But even though you don't have kavana, b'di'evet, Nike. Remember Nike commercial? Just do it. Of course, Ruvain is right. Likat chila, you should have kavana. Therefore, the rabbis came up with blessings before mitzvot. A person can put on tefillin all of his life, shake a lulav, and blow a shofar, and he doesn't make a bracha, he still gets the Torah mitzvah. The rabbis came up with a bracha in order to give you kavanah. But if you don't make the bracha, you still get the Torah mitzvah of the act, putting on tefillin, blowing a shofar, shaking a lulav, sitting in a sukkah. We're going to talk about that. Ooh, 1 minute. The rabbis, Yaakov Goldman asked the Bam Kasha from Bamland, but 1 minute. The rabbis came up with a bracha to give you kavanah, but if you don't make the bracha, you still get the Torah mitzvah, because Judaism is Nike. Just do it. Of course, class A, first class is what? To have kavanah. But even if you don't have kavanah, you fly economy, you still get there. You can fly first class. You can fly economy, Esther. In the end, don't you get there? I'm going in August, Blineda, to New York. I'm flying economy. I can't afford first class. I still get there. So having...
Both ends of the plane come
Right.
down.
So to have kavanah, that's first class. Do the mitzvah without kavanah, you get there, but that's flying economy. But you get there. Judaism is what? All about doing the mitzvot. Just do it. Of course, it's better to have kavanah, but that's what? First class. Now,
Didn't answer my question. What about someone who does it for missionizing purposes?
no, someone's a mesis or mediach. What? So let me tell you what the Yoredeya says. You can look up the Shulchan Aruch Yoredeya. Good question. Shulchan Aruch Yoredeya Simin Reish Samaches. Write it down. You get home, you look it up. Yoredeya Shulchan Aruch chapter 268. A ger who relapsed into idolatry, says the Shulchan Aruch, is still a Jew who's a Rasha.
And that makes
1
it
minute.
worse for them.
1
It makes it
minute.
worse.
Yoredeya or Echaim. Yoredeya, slicha. Shulchan Aruch chapter Reish Samaches 268. A ger who relapsed into Avodah Zarah is still considered a Jew who's a Rasha. Once he converted, he can no longer what? Go back. Okay?
Also,
Now, if he's a Jew for J, that's a different story. If he's a Mesis or Mediach, he's called a seducer, an insider. That's something else. But if he's
goes
not,
through conversion, and
what?
if
No.
he goes through conversion,
No.
then what?
Now, if he's a Jew for J, then everyone admits that that conversion is not valid because his game plan was to be a subterfuge. fifth column, subterfuge, right? Subterfuge. But if he's not a Jews for J, subversive, right? If he's not a Jews for J, he's not a missionary, he's a regular Jew, non-Jew that comes to convert, you should do a background check and investigate that there's no ulterior motives. You should. But if you don't, after the fact, what? He's considered what? No, we just said no. If he's a Jews for J, then he's a subterfuge. That's
He was given a value.
no. If what? No, Gir Ketanim. Let's say non-Jewish parents convert, and their children are under 13 and 12. So what happens there? They convert al Tanai Bezdin. But once they reach the age of 12 or 13, they have to come in front of a Bezdin. And they have to say verbally, I want to continue to be a ger, or I don't want it. And they can just walk away and keep the 7, go to heaven. You don't have to be Jewish to eat Levi's rye bread. You don't have to be Jewish to get to heaven. So once the convert who converted under 13 and 12, once he becomes 12 or 13, a boy and a girl, they have to come in front of 3 Bezdin rabbis, and they have to say either A, I want to continue to be a ger, or I don't want it anymore. Then they can walk away and no strings attached, because they only converted on Das Bezdin. Because under 13 and 12, you don't have any legal authority to do anything. So on Das Bezdin, no, it's a good thing you came today. 12 or 13, because Bezdin Shalmata, Bezdin Shalmala is 20, but Bezdin Shalmata is 12 or 13, depending on a boy and a girl. They have to come in front of a Bezdin and say, I verbally want to continue, or I can walk away, and then no hard feelings, they become a non-Jew.
So for a minor child, they're just writing on their parents'
They're riding on the parents' back, it's called Tanai Bezdin. But once they become 13 or 12, they have to come in front of Bezdin and verbally say, I want to be a ger, or I don't want it. And they walk away with no strings attached and become keep the 7, go to heaven, yes?
Okay, I have a very dear friend, and she was 9 months pregnant when she converted. That she had the baby like 2 days after she was
Okay.
married. He's a Jew.
The baby, Ubar Yerech Imo. Ubar Yerech Imo. A pregnant lady converts. Does the child need conversion? No. Because when a lady converts, doesn't her leg convert?
Yeah.
Why?
Uber is part of it.
The Uber, the English word embryo, the Uber is like the leg of the lady. So when a lady converts, just like her leg converted, her fetus is part of her.
At that point, yeah.
And 100% Jew doesn't need no conversion at all. 100% Yid, because it's part of the mother. Just like the leg is part of the mother, yes?
Everything you discussed today has to do when you're dealing with the person in front of you.
Right.
Okay. My question, not my question, my scenario is,
Yeah.
what happens when someone comes to you and says, I am Jewish because my grandmother converted, and you don't know who converted the grandmother? Wait a second.
They can say what they want.
They can say, but wait a second.
They have to undergo conversion again. If they can't prove that their mother was Jewish, they have no ketubah, they have to undergo conversion. I don't care what they say.
Want to hear a scary story that happened to me?
How long will it take?
3 minutes.
Okay. You talk fast? Yeah.
This story goes back 15 years ago.
Go
My
ahead.
daughter-in-law read my son, her best friend's sister, as for a shidduch.
Shidduch, right?
And my son is out on the date with her, and I'm on the phone with my sister,
Right.
who's a Rebbetzin, and I said to her, my son is out with so-and-so. She goes, that's my best friend's niece. Now, Titz, I have to tell you, 30 years ago, my best friend told me her grandmother converted.
Okay.
Convert. The grandmother was very firm. There's a day school named after her. The daughter's from the whole family's living in Borough.
So what's the problem?
She says, I said, Naomi, you have to go and ask your friend who did the conversion. She went, and it was a touchy question.
Right.
She asked her, and the friend came back, Rabbi Bullman. Remember Rabbi Bullman?
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
Dear friend of my father.
Right. So what's wrong?
Oh, nothing. Anything Rabbi Bullman did, I would accept.
Right.
When Rabbi Bullman was dead,
Right.
And his...
Does she have papers that Rabbi Bubin converted
This
her?
woman is dead many years. We're talking about the grandmother. We're talking about okay?
Yeah.
Something rang. So I was
Yeah.
nervous. So I called Rabbi Tendler.
Right.
I lived in Monsey.
Right.
It's my cousin. And he said, he says, Tirza, I was a dear friend of your father's. I was a dear friend of Rabbi Bowman. Something's off. Rabbi Bowman never did Gairos. This woman doesn't have her facts correct. I mean, I told my son to stop.
Right.
You know, I
She's
just
saying
want
that she never underwent Gerus. If
I didn't
Rabbi,
let it go. I would
Yeah.
never consider the girl.
Yeah.
Because it meant,
All named after her.
Yeah.
there were so many people's lives at stake here.
right.
Married children, grandchildren, and everything, and I wasn't going to unearth who really did the Gairos. The only thing Rabbi Tendler told me was, it was not Rabbi Bowman. This woman doesn't have her information.
But there are 3 rabbis. There isn't one. There are 3 rabbis that do conversion.
Something's off. Rabbi Tendler told me something is off.
Right.
He was close to Rabbi Bowman, and he was close to my father, and he knew that Rabbi
And there's no
Bowman-
documentation? There's no documents?
I'm gonna ask.
If a school
Doesn't matter. School, that doesn't matter. Yes?
What about circumcision, Rabbi?
My question, so Mike, it really boils down to this.
Yeah.
We have the situation now in Israel.
Yeah.
People come and say that their families have been gay for a few generations.
If they can't show a ketubah, they have to undergo conversion again. What's the problem? They undergo conversion again, yes? Can you speak up? What?
Parents,
Jewish parents
a non-Jewish child,
adopted a non-Jewish child.
raised the child as Jewish.
So once the child becomes 13, the child has to come in front of a bezdin, painful as it is, and say, I want to be Jewish or not.
What about circumcision?
Right?
The child is now not keeping mitzvot. With what they say.
1 minute. The child converted, the parents converted the child,
Yes.
right? As a baby.
Yes,
Now, the child becomes bar mitzvah.
right,
The child has to come in front of a bezdin
right.
and say, I want to be Jewish or I don't want to be Jewish. It's painful as it is, they have to say that. So what about circumcision? You circumcise the baby when you adopt him. So once he's 13 and he says he doesn't want it, he's not a Jew anymore.
The case of someone who they adopted was
So they circumcise as a baby. So they raise him as a Jew until 13. Once he becomes 13, he has to verbally say, I want to be a Jew. And if he's, what? At 13. If he says, I want to remain a Jew, he doesn't need anything. No. If he was circumcised as an infant, right, and he was raised a Jew, and once he becomes 13 says, I want to remain a Jew, he doesn't need anything, because he was circumcised al das bezdin. He doesn't need anything. It's only a non-Jew who wants to become Jewish, and he was circumcised as a baby, but he's a non-Jew for health reasons. So when he becomes a Jew, he needs a tafas dam bris. He needs blood to be taken out, even though you can't circumcise him a second time. It doesn't grow back, but you need to take some blood. That's a non-Jew who was circumcised for health reasons. Once he becomes a Jew, has to undergo hatafat dam brit. There has to be some blood taken out, a pinprick. But if a baby was adopted, non-Jew, and raised as a Jew, and once he's 13, goes in front of a bezdin and says, I want to remain a Jew, he doesn't need anything, because he was circumcised al dat bezdin for Jewishness. Yes, Connie? What? He doesn't know he's adopted? You have to tell him, painful as it is, you have to... What's your question?
My question is, he thinks he's Jewish, but he was adopted, he was circumcised, he was raised as a Jew, but he never went to the bezdin.
Right. So
And he's gonna get married.
so he has to go to a bezdin, even if he's 69. When he finds out, even though he's 69, when he finds out, he has to get a bezdin together and say, I want to be a Jew. He has to say that in front of a bezdin whenever he finds out. What? Yes, that he's a Jew Mafreya. Yes. What? Which person?
Whether he's 13 years old or whether he's 69 years old, how old he is,
Right,
He goes to the Beis Din, he says, I want to be a Jew, I'm converted, I want to be a Jew.
Right.
So then does he need to get from them a document testifying to the fact that his conversion is done by Beis Din? Because otherwise his descendants are going to have a problem. There's going to be somebody converted and there's no documentation.
that's a very good question. Once he's 12 or 13, does Beis Din have to give him a letter that he is now a righteous convert? Even though he was raised as a Jew, that's a very good question. Beis Din will give him a letter. When he comes, he has to have that letter that he, of his own free will, made a verbal commitment to keep Judaism. Beis Din will give him that letter, that he's a righteous convert. Yes. Yes, Rabbi Yaakov. What?
The last few discussions assume that this person knows he's supposed to go to Beis Din. What he has to
The parents have to tell him. They never told him. That's a very good question. The parents never told him. So when he finds out, he never found out. That's a great question. He never finds out. That's a very good. Parents should tell him, but they never told him. So we work with a chazakah. Since he was raised Jewish, we assume that he would remain. We work with chazakah. He was raised Jewish, and he thought he's Jewish. So Kani, we work with chazakah. How do you say chazakah? How do you say chazakah? Facts on the ground. We assume. We work with assumptions. Then he would be Jewish, yes.
How can one decide that the Beis Din is a kosher
It does, 3 hadiotos, 3 knowledgeable Jews that know the laws of conversion. Right?
Rabbi
girl was
Sprecher, listen to
adopted.
this one.
One second. go ahead.
What if a girl was adopted?
Right.
And the parents are not observant, they're 2 Jewish parents, raised this girl, and now she's over 12, and she wants to be Jewish.
So she has to go to a Beis Din and say,
Even if the parents weren't observant, she was raised
Doesn't
as-
matter.
Doesn't matter, okay.
right? She has to go to Beis Din and say, I want to be a Jew or I want to walk away. And then she walks away, keep the 7, go to heaven. Yes?
Rabbi Sprecher,
Yes?
my son-in-law was born to a Jewish mother,
Right.
but he was raised in a Catholic school.
But if his mother is Jewish,
And
then he's Jewish.
He's Jewish.
Right? If you're Jewish, if your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. It doesn't matter who your father is. Evelyn, why is that? Your father could be the Vilna Gaon. Does that make you a Jew? No. Your father could be Jose Jimenez. And your mother is Jewish. Al Capone. Your father could be Al Capone. He wasn't Jewish. And your mother is a Jew. What are you, Esther?
Jewish.
Why? Because the Jewish soul goes through the mother. The mama. Not the papa. The Jewish soul travels through the mother. Because women are more in touch with their soul. Women have a bina yetera. What's it called? A sixth sense? Women are more godlike. So the word neshama, the word shechina are all feminine. So therefore, the Jewish soul doesn't depend on the father, but on the mother, because women are more in touch with their soul. Yes?
Okay, so the reason I asked the question, my friends adopted 3 children.
Right.
None of them, they're all over the age of mitzvah. None of them has ever appeared before a Beit Din.
Well, they should. They should, just to make that statement, right? That they want to go on. Because when they converted, they were under the age of what? Of maturity. Right? So they have to say, I consent or I want to walk away. Most of them will say, of course I want to consent. They were raised that way, so it's a formality. Right? It's a formality, and then Beis Din will give them documentation. And this way they'll have no problem marrying the chief rabbi's daughter. Right? Yes?
Just for a point of information.
Right? Can you speak up, please?
I'm a halachic estate planning attorney. I just want to tell you that adopted children are not automatically your heirs halachically. You have have to make them through some kind of halachic estate planning. You adopted the children, you cannot assume that they're going to be they're not your heirs halachically. And children of converts,
Right.
the children were born before the parents converted, and then the whole family converted.
Right.
They're not eaten. Children of converts, converted people are not considered biologically related.
Right. Halachically, right.
Halachically.
Right.
So if you want your converted children to inherit you halachically,
Right.
you also have to do halachically.
Halachic state planning. Terza Jutkowitz, she does halachic state
People are not
planning.
aware of this.
Right. And it's very important, yes.
Rabbi,
Yes.
you use the statement a lot, which we've heard before.
Go ahead.
Keep the seven, go to heaven.
Right.
So non-Jews get to heaven if they're, in that sense, righteous. Is that?
They don't have to be Jewish.
Fine, right. Is that a subset?
They could be spiritual.
Is that a subset of a halachic statement in the Talmud that the righteous, whatever righteous means, of all nations shall inherit the kingdom?
Olam haba. The Rambam in Hilchas Malachim says, Chasida umat olam. The righteous of the nations all have a share in the world to come. And they have it easier. We have to keep the 613 to get to heaven. They only have to keep the 7 to go to heaven. Right?
He's
So,
there for sure.
any other questions, comments?
Got a front row seat.
Thank you very much.